I'm back out here at the shop where I'm doing 3 different videos at a series all at the same time, so they're all under the same ambient conditions, and I'm showing you the pressures and temperatures before when they're low on charge and after. So you can see that pressures, temperatures, PT charge don't mean anything when it comes to automotive unless you're doing the exact same car of the exact same year, the exact same model, and you've done that car 1,000 times. You could start knowing what your superheat is. You should start knowing what your subcooling is. Only apples to apples, not apples to oranges. And only if the fans are working properly, filters are not clogged, condensers are not clogged, condensers haven't been replaced with aftermarket condensers, somebody hasn't charged it up with a can and messed it up. It has to be a full system is the only time, and the only way to do it is totally recovering all the refrigerant, vacuuming it out, and charging it by weight by the manufacturers, and only with an accurate scale, not guesstimating or an inaccurate scale that's only good plus or minus 2 or 3 ounces, like a lot of the AC machines built back in the 90s and 2000s. So you've seen in the previous videos on this vehicle, on the Kia Sonata or Sonata or whatever it's called, and on the Toyota Camry 2015, the pressures and temperatures on some things like this one, for instance, I took out 118 grams on this, and I showed you a video with this at 26 psi on the low side. 26 psi with 180 grams. Right now I have 740 grams I discharged the system up with, and at 740 grams it has 25.6 psi on the low side. When it had 180 grams, it had 26. Now it's 25. I'm miswording. God dang it. I can't reshoot. I don't edit. All one take, and you get to see all my mistakes. If I remember correctly on this BMW, when it had 180 grams. Now remember, if you're using a can from one of those stupid auto parts stores with the stupid little can, with the stupid little gauge, with the little green section that tells you you are properly charged, if you remember, you don't have a high side to look at when you're using a can with one little gauge. So I had 180 grams, I had 26 psi. I have 740 grams, I have 25.5 psi. So how are you going to tell the difference between one of those stupid little cans with that dumb little gauge telling you where the... Now remember, when it was low at 180 grams, I had 17 or 18 psi on the high side. Well, now I have 218, 100 psi difference, but yet you don't have a big difference on the low side. Look at that suction line temperature. That's my clamp on the suction line. I have 35 degrees temperature, and that's Fahrenheit, not Celsius. And my liquid line is at 109. I have 740 grams in there. It's now cooling. It's 56 degrees coming out of the dash right now. On that Toyota, if you remember, there's only like a 10 psi difference, roughly 15 psi difference, and there was only 1.5 ounces short on refrigerant charge, but yet it could not cool off the cabin. The customer was complaining when it was hot it would not cool and it would not cycle. It get down to roughly 42 degrees. I discharged, recharged. I only put 1.5 ounce more in that Toyota Camry, and now it goes down to 39 degrees with only 1.5 ounces difference. Go back to that Kia Sonata or whatever it was on that video just a couple of videos back, and you'd see when it was fully charged it was only roughly 117 or 18 psi on the high side fully charged. But yet here I am on these other 2 vehicles. One was 190 on the Toyota, I'm at 216 out here. How could you possibly use pressures to determine whether a vehicle is full air conditioning charge when you have such a big difference? And on this vehicle, as you see on the low side, if you were just using a can, a single gauge, 25 psi, 26 psi difference on the low side. It only had 180 grams.